Hello everybody, welcome to IA Command, it's TV Boy, and we have continuing Season 6 spoilers for the second week. This is the second week of the 2-week spoiler season for Season 6, and then I believe that next week the season will be live and in effect, so people will be able to play with it, assuming that, Vassal and everything is up online. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but that's okay. And we're going to be talking about the spoilers that have come out this week. I'm recording this on Wednesday night, and so I'm going to be looking at the spoilers that have come out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from July 19th through the 21st. And so, yeah, we're going to look at it. I do want to mention that I was not active in the design process for these cards, but I did get to view them before the spoiler season started because I was helping out the steering committee for these past 2 weeks with kind of getting all the assets pulled together for this season. So I do have a little bit of foreknowledge, and I've also passed along my thoughts on these cards to the steering committee before the spoilers came out for some of them. And but now I'm going to share with you all my thoughts on the cards as they have been spoiled. So let's jump into the first spoiler from Monday. This is the All Weather Warriors article by Jake Peterson. And in this article, we have spoiled 2 new cards for the Rebel faction. The first one is going to be an updated Echo-based Trooper card. So this is an existing deployment card from the original game, from the Return to Hoth expansion. So this is an elite trooper, 7 deployment cost, 4 figure cost, reinforcement cost. It's got 2 figures per group. It's 8 health, 4 speed, a blue and a green attack, ranged attack with black defense die. It's got the efficient travel keyword, so that's a new thing they're doing for Season 6 is a limited number of keywords are being moved up to the top ability area without their full text. Kind of like how mobile and massive exist there in the regular game. So efficient travel is one of those. That's one that lets them move through difficult terrain and hostile figures without spending extra movement points. Then it's got +2 accuracy built in, and a surge for +2 damage, and then a surge for +2 accuracy and pierce 1. And then we have frontline. While attacking, if the target is within 3 spaces of you, you may replace 1 blue die with 1 red die. And then Cortosis Weave. So this is a new ability. While you are defending, you may reduce the pierce value of the attack results by 2 to a minimum of 0. So very strong. That's going to be against every attack. So it's like a built-in Zillow exhaust. And then frontline is the same. Let's actually look at what they used to be. So this is the original FFG version. So they cost 1 point more. They didn't have the built-in accuracy. They did have efficient travel. Frontline is the same. Oh, and then combat suit. Reduce the pierce by 1. So they upgraded that to reduce the pierce by 2. Okay, and I guess they used to have a surge for +3 accuracy, but now it's +2 accuracy, but with a pierce 1. So very good surge abilities. Yeah, and the +2 accuracy means that now you can use frontline and not have to worry about missing if you're not like adjacent. Because that was a problem with frontline, is you would have a red-green attack, but green can roll down to just 1 accuracy, and so if you're not standing right adjacent and you don't roll a surge, you could miss, which really sucked. So this means you can attack out to range 3 with that red-green attack, which is really nice. And yeah, these look really good. Not much else to say. Efficient travel, they kind of have all the bells and whistles. Efficient travel, they're going to be really tough to kill quickly with that pierce reduction. I think they'll still probably go down in 2 shots to most decent attackers with just 8 health, but it means it's unlikely that they will get one-shotted for sure. Great art too. I love the art on this one. Okay, so the next one is a new card, and this is actually going to be a squad upgrade. So we talked about squad upgrades in the last Season 6 preview video. This is basically like an attachment that you put on to a non-unique Rebel Trooper with 2 figures. So like our Echo-based Trooper here would qualify. And it adds a figure to that group. So let's take a look at what we're getting with this. Is 5 points for a Trooper Heavy Weapon squad upgrade. It has 8 health, 4 speed, An attack die, a ranged attack of green, green, yellow with a black defense die. So 3 dice attacker, but that's pretty good for 5 points. It has Auto Blast 1, which is awesome. Surge for +2 damage, and Surge for +2 accuracy, and Pierce 1. So similar Surge abilities to the Echo Base, but without the built-in accuracy. It instead has a built-in Blast. And then it's got one ability in the text box. This is a special action for Auto Fire. Perform an attack. The defending figure adds 1 white die to its defense pool. This attack gains Surge. After this attack resolves, perform an attack targeting a figure with 3 spaces of the target space. Okay, so we've seen something similar to that in Barrage from CT, but it looks like you don't get it automatically. So Barrage was, you just automatically get 2 attacks, and the second one adds white die. This one you're getting 1 attack, and then you add a white die on the first attack, and if you can get a Surge, you can attack again. Yeah, this seems pretty good. Green, green, yellow. It's nice that it has 3 attack dice, but green, green, yellow without a reroll is notoriously swingy. Sometimes you just get like too many surges, or sometimes you just get really just a terrible roll with low accuracy and low damage. It can spike though, and it does provide on average a lot of surges, which this figure definitely wants, especially since with the auto fire they're going to have a white die, so there's a high chance that they're going to have an evade canceling your surge on the first attack. I actually did a few die rolls with this just in my dice roller app, and it does often whiff on the first attack just because with the dodge on the white die, and then getting that extra symbols from the white die on half the time. You'll do like maybe 1 or 2 damage if you're not focused with that first attack. So I think you really want to focus this up so that when you make that first attack, you're going to be able to punch through that extra defense die and guarantee that you're going to get that extra surge you need for the +2 damage and be able to use the extra attack. And by the way, you can attack the same target because it is a figure within 3 spaces of itself, but you can also attack something else. And then the blast ones is really nice for attacking into a group of figures. So yeah, important to note, there's only 2 groups you can put this on. The Echo Base Troopers is one, and then the other one is actually the what are they called? Pathfinders that were introduced last season. And I actually think they're the best on the Pathfinders. I think because of distracting fire, like you're going to be able to do really nasty things to people where, you activate your Pathfinders, you have your Z6 come up, attack somebody twice, your other Pathfinder attack, and then have your last Pathfinder, or maybe you'd have your first one, so you're not going to miss. Use distracting fire to attack something else, and then that something else has to activate, and you get to attack that same target you were working on again without having it activate to interrupt you, which I think is really strong. It's a very strong tempo play. Check out my video about tempo. And I think that's where this attachment's really going to shine, is with the Pathfinders. I think it's going to be good with the Echo Base Troopers regardless, because these are just solid. So you're putting a solid attachment onto a solid group, and that's going to be solid throughout. But I think the real synergy here that is going to be with the Pathfinders, which is what interests me as a list builder and somebody who likes the synergies in the game. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. The next one is going to be, oopsie, you didn't want to see that. You want to see these teeth. The next one is going to be Bib Fortuna, and we did talk about this in our first video. This was initially spoiled on Discord during one of the Vassal tournaments, but there are some additional cards in this article, so we'll just quickly talk about Bib. I believe Bib, yeah, in this one is they updated the wording on illicit income. It used to be a bit confusing, but now I think it's a lot more straightforward with what they've come up with. So when your player gains VPs from using a command card or deployment card, gain 1 extra VP limit once per round. So it's pretty clear that you don't get this ability when you get VPs from missions or from defeating figures. It's only when you use deployment cards or command cards like Celebration or like Jabba's illicit, or what, not illicit, what is, I don't remember Jabba's ability, but the one that gives you 1 extra VP when you defeat a figure, that would count for illicit income. So I think that's good, and I think Bib is going to be very impactful in the mercenary faction, just for giving scum players a way to get out of including Rebel Care Package in their list, which I think a lot of scum players have been asking for in Imperial Assault. So what did get spoiled was his command card. So this is 1 point for Palace Politics. So use when a hostile figure within 3 spaces declares an attack targeting a unique friendly figure. The attack misses unless your opponent pays you 2 VP. So I really like this card. I think a lot of people will look at this and be like, "Oh no, another command card that like blanks an attack." But it's not quite that simple because there's really two things at play here, and both of them give the opponent a lot of agency. So it's on the user of this card to really get the most out of it and play it skillfully. The first one is that, of course, you can just pay you can pay Bib 2 VPs and you still get your attack. So if this is the if this is the big attack that's going to win the game, that's going to put you over 40, and you're at like 36 points, if you could pay them 2 and then still win the game with the attack, you're not going to just let it whiff. If it's a little Manini attack, so, sorry, that is just kind of a throwaway attack, and they just threw Palace Politics out there just because they could, then you'll just let it go, and you're not gonna like go down. It's a 4 point VP swing, so it's a big cost, but ultimately the opponent gets to choose which is more important to them, the 2 VPs or the attack. And then the other thing is, like, you can just not stand next to Bim when you attack him, or when you not him, but when you attack somebody else, because you know that this has to be within 3 spaces of the attacker. So you have to literally put your attacker within 3 spaces of Bib Fortuna and attack for this to be live, which I think will actually limit its playability quite a bit. Because once you are aware of it, it's very difficult to force the opponent to attack from within 3 spaces of Bib. But I like everything this card's got going on. I like that it plays into his themes, because usually he's standing next to somebody like Jabba in the TV shows and the movies, and that he's very easily swayed from his duties by money, which is perfect for him. So let's talk about the final card that was spoiled. This is a old card from the core set, First Strike. So this used to cost 2 points. It's 1 point now, and it says after setup, you and your opponent both receive 4 VPs. So this clearly playing into the VP gaining archetype of Scum. But important to note is it's really useful for, I think, especially if Scum starts getting more figures and cards that spend VPs as a resource, like this is going to be really useful, so that to make sure that you have VPs you need on round 1. Because a lot of times, abilities like Bib's bartered information, you can't use that round 1 because most mission abilities score at the end of round 1. So using First Strike in your list with Bib is going to let you use that bartered information to spend your 1 VP, and actually you will gain 1 extra VP, so you'll be at 5, and then you can spend it with bartered information, and you'll still be even with your opponent. So basically starting at 30, like you need to get 36 VPs to win instead of 40, which is good if you're the one racing to gain victory points. So this will be interesting to see. I think we'll see this played maybe in VP lists, but I think especially in the ones that have Bib and want to spend VP early. All right, so let's talk about the final spoiler from Wednesday. This is going to be for the Empire, and we will recognize this character if you have seen the Mandalorian TV show. This is Moff Gideon. So Moff Gideon is 6 points for a leader spy. He has 10 health, speed 4, blue, green, yellow, ranged attack, and a black defense die. So looking quite similar to Grand Admiral Thrawn in stats department. He's got Surge for +2 damage, Surge for +2 accuracy and focus, so he can self-focus himself if he attacks and spends a Surge. And now his abilities. The first one is ISB Intel. So at the start of a round, you may name a command card and then look at an opponent's hand and choose a card with that name and discard it. Limit once per mission. So this is an ability you can only use once per game instead of once per round. Next is Expendable Allies. When your player gains VPs from a mission effect, you may defeat a friendly non-companion figure within 3 spaces to gain 4 additional VPs, limit once per round. And I should mention, by the way, that this card did get updated since it was first spoiled. I think they forgot to put in the non-companion clause, and also there was an issue with the way it was worded that was confusing for when it would trigger. So this is the updated version. And then finally, Spoils of Mandalore. During setup, if the Darksaber, Weapon of the Ancients, is in your army, you may attach it to this group. If you do, gain +2 health. Okay, let's talk about this card. I think this card has a lot of fun stuff going on. First, let's talk about the trinket text at the bottom, Spoils of Mandalore, and I do think that's what it is. It's pretty much trinket text. As a reminder, the Darksaber, just so we can look at what it does. This was an attachment released in Season 4 that was for just Maul or Sabine. So with Moff Gideon's ability, and by the way, it is a neutral skirmish upgrade, so you can include the Darksaber in any list. You don't have to have Maul or Sabine in your list to actually put it in your list. But by the rules, you can only attach it to Maul or Sabine based on the restrictions here. So Spoils of Mandalore lets you attach the Darksaber to Moff Gideon. And looking at what it actually does for him, he's not a force user. He doesn't have blast or cleave, so all it's doing is it's giving him a reroll when he attacks, which is nice. And then it lets him do a special action, perform a red melee or a melee attack with 1 red die. But he doesn't have autofocus like Maul does, so and he probably doesn't want to get super close. But it also gives him +2 health with this ability, so really you're getting, for 1 point, you're pretty much getting a reroll and +2 health, which I think is actually fair. So if you want to run him at 7, you can. If you want him to be, I think if you want him to be more combat oriented, that's what you're going to do. You're going to put Darksaber on him. If you're using him for his abilities and his support, I think you'll just bring him at 6 points so you can spend points elsewhere. Okay, let's talk about Expendable Allies. So this is interesting to see a VP related ability on an Imperial figure. We're used to seeing that on Scum, but I like what it's doing. So basically, whenever you gain VPs from a mission effect, if somebody is close to Moff Gideon, he can defeat them, a friendly figure, to gain 4 additional VPs. Now that sounds like a lot for something that's limit once per round. We have to realize when you're defeating something, you're giving your opponent the VPs for that figure. So if you can't defeat a companion, thankfully they updated that. The cheapest figures in Empire are officers and stuff like regular stormtroopers for 2 points. So you're going to get 4 VPs, but your opponent's going to get 2. So ultimately, it's just a 2-point VP swing in your favor, but it's also accelerating the game to the end, which is nice. And I think that's good design. I think making games quicker and just end faster is not a bad thing, and that's what this is doing. And it also plays into kind of this archetype that a lot of people have been clamoring for, or not a lot of people, but some people have been clamoring for, of making, the 2-point blank figures, warm bodies, be more meaningful in Imperial Assault, which is a game dominated by, the 4-point and higher figure cost. And I think that's what this is playing into. So if you are someone who wants to run regular stormtroopers in a list, Moff Gideon is going to be really good for you because you're going to be able to cache those bodies that aren't really doing anything for VPs. And then finally, let's talk about this ISB Intel ability. So I really like this ability. I think it plays well into his flavor, that he is kind of like omniscient and knows everything about everything. And it basically rewards you for being knowledgeable about what kind of command cards your opponent is likely to be running. And it lets you, at the worst case scenario, it's letting you get a free peek at your opponent's hand once per game. And then best case, if you guess right, you will get to take something. And it does work well with spy cards. So Intelligence Leak, which lets you look at your opponent's hand and discard a card for strain. You can use that with this, and then of course you'll know what's in their hand. I do like that it's at the start of the round, so you'll have to wait after you use Intel Leak, and they'll get to draw some more cards, so you won't give perfect knowledge of their hand when you use ISB Intel, because there isn't really anything in Spies that lets you look at the hand. I think there is one card. What is it? It's like, I know Joey mentioned it. Collect Intel. Oh, so this card you could do to look at their hand, but I mean this card is not good, so you could, but then you're basically trading this for a card in their hand, which I guess is not terrible actually. Yeah, I think would be not terrible, so you could definitely run this with Moff Gideon. However, there is a card that they did release that is going to let you basically have perfect information and also is card neutral, unlike Collect Intel. So let's look at that. His command card is I Know Everything, which I think is a line of his from the TV show. So 0 points. Use at the start of a round to look at an opponent's hand and deck of command cards. So hand and deck. You may choose one card, shuffle the deck, then move the chosen card to the bottom of the deck. So this card, yeah, I think I don't. I would say don't expect this card to look like this within a month. I don't think this is gonna stay the same. After the first update comes in August to the season, when they update cards that need to be rebalanced. 0 points to look at your opponent's hand and deck and basically remove a card from it. Like, yeah, it's still in their deck, but it's at the bottom. Is just it's a lot for a 0 point card. I would love this card if it just let him look at the command deck. Like, because that's something we haven't really seen in Imperial Assault. We have lots of cards that let you look at your opponent's hand and mess with their hand, but we haven't really seen something that lets you go into your opponent's deck and then mess with their deck. Thrawn kind of played into that a little bit with his ability, which was strategize. So you could look at the top of your opponent's deck and discard it if you want to. But I like that this in a command card, so once per game type effect, although maybe twice if you use Afro, could let you go through their deck and kind of mess with their deck. And the great thing I would love about that idea too is that when you take something from their deck and put it at the bottom, they don't get to know what it was. So you know what's at the bottom, and they don't. They don't know what you deprive them of until the game is over. And I just think that's so fantastic. But of course, you're never gonna really take it from their deck probably unless it's like on the Lamb, I guess, or maybe it's on a Skywalker. But most of the time, you're gonna take something out of their hand, um, or even maybe you will take stuff from their deck 50% of the time, maybe. But if it's in their hand, you're gonna take it from their hand, and then because this has the same timing instance as ISB Intel, then you just get to name another card and you get to take the other card from their hand. So yeah, I would love to see this change to choose one card to just search the opponent's command deck for all the reasons I just gave. And then one last thing I'll mention about Moff Gideon here is I like what they're doing with focus in Empire. I like that, this is similar. We saw Agent Callus in season 5 that has search for focus, which was not designed by myself. And we've seen that kind of moving in Empire to the commanders being able to focus themselves with or sometimes like certain types of figures, and that's using their attacks. So everything's based on attacking. It's not like special actions like it is in the other factions, and they are very selfish in that they focus themselves or that they focus just their like specific type of subordinates. And that's something that we definitely saw in the base game with, even back in the core set, Royal Guards were able to self-focus. Kane Somos could focus only, specific types of figures, and it was based on an attack. We saw that continued. BT able to self-focus when attacking, and then of course Callus, and we also had Soren. I forgot to add here, but General Soren also had that where when his subordinate figure types attacked, if they were nearby, they could surge to self-focus. So I like that we're seeing that trend continued in IACP, where we're giving something that you normally think of as being locked into a specific faction, giving it to another faction, but having them do it in a different way so that it feels different and unique. So I like that. I like what we got going on. Hopefully this card changes. I don't expect it not to. But that is the rest of the spoilers. We'll catch you guys next week for the final Season 6 spoilers and final thoughts on the season as it has been revealed. Thanks for watching, you guys. Have a good one.